You hear the shouting before you see the crowd. It carries across the dust like a warning, sharp, jagged, the kind of noise that doesn't belong to trade or talk, but to something uglier. The wind pushes it down the street, along with the smell of sweat, leather, and something sour that clings to the back of your throat. People are gathering near the auction block, not the usual kind, not cattle, not horses, something else. You don't slow your horse, but your grip tightens on the reins. Leather creaks under your fingers, your knuckles pale. The town looks the same as it always does, sunburnt wood, crooked signs, men pretending not to stare, but the air feels wrong. Like a storm is building, only there are no clouds. You step down before your horse fully settles. Boots hit dirt, solid, grounded. You don't ask questions. You walk straight toward the noise. The closer you get, the quieter people become around you. Not out of respect. Not yet. Just instinct. Something about the way you move makes them shift aside without knowing why. The auctioneer stands on a raised platform, wiping sweat from his lip with the back of his hand. His voice is loud, rehearsed, practiced to sound casual. But there's strain underneath it. You catch the words as you step into the open. Strong enough to work, I'm telling you. And the kids, well, they'll grow. Good investment for the right buyer. The crowd mutters. Some laugh. Some don't meet each other's eyes. And then you see her. She stands at the edge of the platform, not on it, like even they know putting her up there would make it too obvious, too crude. Her dress is worn thin at the elbows, dust clinging to the hem. One child clutches her side, small fingers tangled in fabric. The other stands just behind her, half hidden, watching everything with eyes too sharp for their age. She doesn't beg. That's the first thing you notice. Her chin is set, jaw tight, like iron holding against a hammer, but her hands, those give her away. White knuckles, trembling just enough to betray the strain. You stop 10 paces out, close enough to hear her breathing if the crowd would shut up, close enough to see the way her shoulders stiffen when someone steps too near. The auctioneer gestures toward her like she's a piece of livestock that hasn't quite decided whether to kick. Widow, he says, as if that explains everything. No man, no land, debts unpaid. He shrugs. Easy, dismissive. Law says she's collateral. A ripple runs through the crowd. Some nod. Others shift uncomfortably. Everyone understands the rule. Doesn't mean they like seeing it laid bare. The child at her side presses closer. She doesn't look down, doesn't comfort, not because she doesn't want to, because she can't afford to. You've seen that before. People who know one crack is all it takes. The auctioneer raises his voice again. We'll start low. No need to make this complicated. Who's got 50? A man near the front spits into the dirt. 30, he says. Laughter follows. Cheap, ugly. Another voice cuts in. 40. The numbers move, slow and reluctant, not because she isn't worth more, because no one wants to admit what they're buying. You shift your weight. Dust grinds under your heel. The sound is small, but it carries. A few heads turn, not toward you directly, just enough to register that something changed. The woman notices. Her eyes flicker for a fraction of a second, then back to the ground in front of her. Careful. Controlled. Like looking too long might cost her something. The bidding stalls at 60. Silence stretches. The auctioneer forces a grin that doesn't reach his eyes. 60 for 3 lives, he calls. That's a bargain any way you slice it. No one answers. A fly buzzes somewhere near your ear. You don't swat it. The man who offered 60 shifts, uneasy now that he's alone in it. You can see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Not desire, not cruelty. Just numbers, labor, cost, return. The woman's grip tightens on the child. The other one steps forward half a pace, then stops, testing the boundary. The crowd leans in, waiting. You feel it then, that moment. The one where things settle into place if no one interferes. Where a line gets crossed quietly, without ceremony, and becomes just another story people stop telling after a while. Your hand moves to your belt, not for a weapon, not yet, just resting there, grounding. The leather is worn smooth from years of use, familiar, certain. The auctioneer clears his throat, 60 going once. Your voice cuts through before he can finish. Low, flat, not loud. Doesn't need to be. Name your price. The words land heavy, like something dropped from a height. The crowd turns fully now, faces open, curious, suspicious, measuring. You don't step closer, Don't raise your voice. You just stand there, letting the silence stretch around the words. The auctioneer squints at you. He wasn't expecting interruption, not like this. We've got a bid already, he says, trying to regain control. 60. You don't look at him. Your eyes stay on the woman, not her face, not directly, just enough to let her know the offer isn't a performance. Name your price, you repeat. The man who bid 60 scoffs. You trying to run up the number? There's an edge to his voice now. Defensive. You turn your head slightly, just enough to acknowledge him. You buying? The man hesitates. That's all it takes. A flicker. A crack. You look back at the auctioneer. Name it. The auctioneer licks his lips. Greed starts to replace discomfort. You can see it happen in real time. His posture shifts, confidence creeping back in now that he smells opportunity. 200, he says, testing. The crowd murmurs. That's high. Too high for something like this. You don't blink. Done. The word hits harder than the last. No hesitation, no negotiation. The auctioneer freezes for half a second, then smiles. Wide. Too wide. 200, he repeats, louder now. Do I hear done? You say again. Final. The man who bid 60 steps back, hands up slightly, like he wants no part of what just happened. The crowd begins to shift, energy changing. What was tension turns into something else, something uncertain. The auctioneer nods quickly. Sold. He bangs the gavel against the wood. The sound cracks through the air. Sharp, decisive. And just like that, it's over. Except it isn't. Because now every eye is on you. You step forward, closing the distance. Slow, measured. The woman watches you now, directly. No more looking away. No more pretending. Her eyes search your face for something. Weakness, cruelty, motive. You stop a few feet in front of her, close enough to see the dirt pressed into the lines of her hands, close enough to hear the shallow rhythm of her breathing. Up close, she looks more tired than afraid, like fear burned out days ago and left something harder behind. You reach into your coat. The crowd tenses. Hands hover near holsters. You pull out the money, folded, worn, real. You hand it to the auctioneer without looking away from her. You're free, you say. The words are simple, plain, but they don't land clean. Not at first. She doesn't move, doesn't react. Like she's waiting for the catch, the part where the terms change, where freedom turns into something else with a different name. No, she says finally. Quiet, controlled. That's not how this works. You nod once. It is now. The older child steps forward fully this time, standing between you and her, small, defiant. You glance down briefly, not dismissive, just acknowledging. You got a name? You ask. The child hesitates, looks back at her. She gives the smallest nod. Barely there. Eli, the child says, voice steady despite everything. You nod again. Eli, you repeat, like it matters, like it's something worth remembering. The woman studies you for another long moment, then finally speaks. Why? One word? Heavy, loaded with everything she hasn't said. You take a breath, let it out slow, because no one else did. That's it. No speech, no justification, just the truth, plain and unpolished. The wind shifts again, carrying the dust past all of you. The crowd begins to break apart, interest fading now that the spectacle is over. But a few stay, watching, waiting to see what comes next. The woman looks down at her children, then back at you. Something changes in her expression, not trust, not yet, but something loosens. Just enough. What now? She asks. You turn slightly, glancing toward your horse, then back at her. Now, you say, we get off this street. The street doesn't clear all at once. It thins in layers. First, the loud ones drift off, joking too hard, pretending they didn't just watch a line get crossed. Then, the quiet ones follow, eyes down, boots dragging through dust like they're trying to erase what just happened. What's left are the watchers. The ones who lean against posts and railings, arms folded, saying nothing because they're still deciding what you are. Trouble, fool, or something worse. You don't give them anything to work with. You take the reins in one hand and start walking. No rush, no glance back. The woman doesn't move right away. You hear it, the hesitation, soft as cloth shifting. Then footsteps, light, careful. The children keep close to her, not to you. That's fine. Distance is honest. You cut through a side alley where the buildings lean inward. Wood warped from heat and years of neglect. Shade falls in broken strips across the ground. It smells different here, less like people, more like damp earth and old rot. Your boots find the solid spots without looking. You've walked worse places than this. Behind you she stumbles once, not enough to fall, enough to tell you she's been running on something thinner than strength. You slow half a step. Not obvious. Just enough. When you reach the end of the alley, the town opens into a quieter stretch. Fewer eyes, fewer questions. Your horse snorts, shifting its weight as you approach. You run a hand along its neck, feeling the heat under the hide, the steady pulse of something grounded and real. We're leaving, you say, more to the animal than anyone else. The woman stops a few feet away, keeps that distance like it's part of her now. Built in. The older one, Eli, watches everything. Your hands, the horse, the road behind you, measuring, always measuring. The smaller child clings to her skirt, silent but alert. You nod toward the saddle. You ride, you tell her. She doesn't move. I can walk. You shake your head once. You won't make it far. Her jaw tightens. Pride flares, quick and sharp. You don't know that. You meet her gaze, steady. I do. The silence stretches. It's not empty. It's full of weight. Decisions stacking on top of each other. Finally, she exhales. Small. Controlled. The kids ride, she says. You consider that. Then nod. Fine. You lift Eli first. He stiffens at your touch, muscles coiled like he might bolt. You don't grip him tight, just enough to guide. He settles into the saddle, still watching you like you might change shape if he blinks. The smaller one follows, easier, though their hands clutch at the leather like it might disappear. You adjust the reins so they can hold on without slipping. Then you step back. Stay close, you tell them. Your voice stays even, no edge, no softness either, just instruction. The woman watches the whole exchange. Her eyes linger on your hands again, noting the way you move, efficient, careful. Like you've done this before, but not like it's routine. That matters. You pick up the lead and start walking again. The town falls away behind you, slow at first, then all at once. Buildings give way to open land. The horizon stretches wide, flat and unforgiving. The wind has room to move out here. It hits harder, carrying dust that stings the eyes and settles in the mouth. The sun hangs high, relentless. Heat presses down on everything. You don't look back. Not at the town, not at the auction block you left behind. What's done is done. The road ahead is what matters now. Footsteps fall into rhythm. Yours steady, the horses measured. The children shift now and then, adjusting to the movement. The woman keeps pace beside you for a while, then drifts a step behind. Not falling back, just choosing a position where she can see more. Smart. You let the silence sit. No need to fill it yet. Words too early are just noise. After a stretch, she speaks. You didn't answer me. Her voice cuts through the wind, firm despite the dryness in it. You keep your eyes on the road. I did. No, she says. You gave me something that sounds like an answer. You glance at her then, brief, measuring. You want more? She doesn't hesitate. Yes. You let a few steps pass before you respond. There's a ranch north of here, you say. Needs hands, real work. Not charity. She studies you, trying to find the angle. And in return, you work, you say. Simple, direct. You eat, you stay. She narrows her eyes slightly. That's it? You nod. That's it. She doesn't believe you. Not fully. You can see it in the way her shoulders stay tight, the way her gaze keeps searching for the part you're leaving out. People don't do things for nothing, she says. Not out here. You stop walking. Turn to face her fully for the first time. The wind pushes dust between you, a thin veil that doesn't quite hide anything. I'm not people, you say. The words aren't a boast. They land flat. Matter of fact. That unsettles her more than anything else you could have said. Eli shifts in the saddle, listening. The smaller child leans forward slightly, eyes moving between you and her. She holds your gaze for a long moment, testing. Then she nods once. Not agreement, not acceptance, just acknowledgement. What's your name? She asks. You hesitate, not because you don't have one, because names carry weight. They make things real in a way that can't be undone. Cole, you say finally. She repeats it under her breath, trying it on, seeing how it fits. I'm Mara. The name hangs there, solid, earned. You nod once. Mara. Eli straightens slightly at the sound of it. The smaller child relaxes just a fraction. Names do that. They give shape to things that feel like they might fall apart otherwise. You turn back to the road and start walking again. The rhythm picks up where it left off, but something has shifted. Subtle. The distance between you narrows by half a step. Not much. Enough. The land rolls out ahead in long stretches of dry grass and scattered rock. No shade, no shelter, just distance. You know this terrain. Know where the ground dips, where water might still be hiding if you look close enough. You angle slightly west without announcing it, the kind of adjustment that keeps people alive without them realizing it. After another hour, the children start to fade. You see it in the way Eli's posture slumps despite his effort to stay alert. The smaller one leans against him, eyes half closed. You stop near a shallow rise where a cluster of scrub offers a sliver of shade. It's not much, it's enough. You tie the horse loosely and help the children down. Eli lands on his feet but wobbles. You steady him with a light hand on his shoulder. He doesn't pull away this time, just nods once like it's a transaction. Fair. Mara lowers herself to the ground slowly, every movement controlled. Pain flickers across her face before she locks it down again. You kneel near your pack, pulling out a canteen. The water inside is warm. Doesn't matter. You hand it to her first. She hesitates, then takes it. Drinks carefully, not too much. She passes it to Eli, who drinks faster until she places a hand on his arm. He stops immediately. Discipline, learned the hard way. The smaller child drinks last. Both hands wrapped around the canteen like it's something fragile and precious. You watch all of it without comment. Then, you take the canteen back and cap it. We rest 10 minutes, you say. Then we move. Mara studies you again. You always this precise? You shrug slightly. Keeps people alive. She leans back against the scrub, eyes closing for a brief moment. Not sleep. Just a pause. You've done this before, she says. It's not a question. You don't answer. The wind shifts again, cooler this time. Subtle. But it carries a hint of something different. You glance toward the horizon. There's a line there. Faint. Easy to miss if you don't know what you're looking for. Clouds building, far off. A storm, maybe. Or just a tease. Either way, it changes the math. You stand, brushing dust from your hands. Change of pace, you say. Mara opens her eyes. What kind of change? You look back at her, then at the children. The kind that means we don't stop again until dark. Eli looks up at that. Tired, but there's a spark there. Determination. He nods before Mara can say anything. You catch that. File it away. You offer a hand to help her up. She looks at it for a second, then takes it. Her grip is firm despite the fatigue. You pull her to her feet. She doesn't let go immediately. Just long enough to make sure she's steady. Then she releases. All right, she says. Quiet. Resolved. You nod once. All right. You lift the children back onto the horse, adjust the reins, and take the lead again. The road ahead hasn't changed. Still long. Still hard. But the air feels different now, charged, like something is coming that won't wait for you to be ready. You start walking, and this time, when Mara falls into step beside you, she doesn't hang back. The wind changes first, not in force, but in direction. It comes at you from the side now, carrying a dry chill that cuts through the heat like a warning, whispered too late. You keep moving. No pause, no discussion. The land ahead dips into a shallow basin scattered with rock and brittle grass, the kind of terrain that looks harmless until it traps you in the wrong weather. You angle toward higher ground, without saying it out loud. Mara notices anyway. She watches your line, the subtle shift in your path, and adjusts her pace to match. Eli squints toward the horizon, following your gaze. Storm, he asks. One word, straight to the point. You nod once. Maybe. He looks back at the sky, trying to read something in it. The clouds are still distant, a low smear against the edge of the world, but they're building, layering, the kind that don't pass quietly. You lengthen your stride. The horse responds, picking up just enough speed to matter. The children sway with the motion, but they hold steady. Mara breathes a little harder now, fatigue creeping in around the edges of her control. You hear it in the rhythm. Shorter pulls, slight hitch on the exhale. She doesn't complain, doesn't slow. You let the silence stretch until it serves a purpose, then you speak. When it hits, it'll come fast. She nods. How bad? You glance at the sky again. Bad enough. She absorbs that without flinching, just a small tightening around her eyes. Where do we go? Up, you say, always up first, then we find cover. Eli shifts in the saddle. What kind of cover? You look at him this time, really look, measuring what he can handle, rock if we're lucky, ground if we're not. He nods, no fear in it, just acceptance. That settles something in you, though you don't show it. The basin narrows as you move through it, the ground rising in uneven steps. Loose stones roll underfoot if you don't place your weight right. You adjust your pace again, guiding the horse along a line that minimizes the risk. It's small work, constant, the kind people don't notice until it's done wrong. Mara watches your feet for a few steps, then mirrors the pattern. Heel, shift, test, step, efficient. She learns fast. That matters more than strength out here. The first gust hits harder than the rest. It comes low, like sweeping across the ground and kicking up a sheet of dust that stings the eyes and fills the mouth. The horse tosses its head, uneasy. You tighten your grip on the lead, steadying it with a firm pull and a quiet word. Easy. The animal settles, trusting the tone more than the touch. Mara turns her face slightly, shielding the children from the worst of the grit. Eli leans forward, one arm braced across the saddle horn, the other wrapping around the smaller one. Protective, instinctive. The sky darkens by degrees, not a sudden shift, a slow bleed of color until the blue fades into something heavier. The air thickens, charged. You feel it on your skin, in your teeth, like the world is holding its breath. You push harder now. No need to explain. They follow. The ground rises into a ridge of broken stone, jagged and uneven. Not ideal, but it's something. You scan it quickly, eyes moving over the angles, the shadows, the way the wind curls around the edges. There, a narrow cut between two slabs, deep enough to break the worst of the gusts. Not perfect. It'll have to do. There, you say, pointing. You move faster, boots finding purchase where there shouldn't be any. The horse resists for a moment at the incline, then commits. Eli holds on, jaw set. The smaller child buries their face against him. Mara climbs beside you, hands grabbing at rock and root, pulling herself up without asking for help. You reach the cut just as the storm hits in full. Wind slams into the ridge, howling through the gaps like something alive. Dust turns to a wall, thick and blinding. You lead the horse into the narrow space, turning it so its body blocks part of the opening. Down. You tell the kids. Eli slides off, then helps the smaller one without being asked. You guide them into the deepest part of the cut, where the rock curves inward just enough to offer real shelter. Mara follows, crouching low as the wind tears past the entrance. You move quickly, efficient. You pull a canvas roll from your pack, shaking it out and wedging it across the opening at an angle, not to seal it, just to break the force. You secure one end under a rock, the other with a loop of rope around a jut of stone. The canvas snaps and strains, but it holds. The space dims, the light filtered through dust and fabric. The noise drops from a roar to a constant, grinding howl. You check the horse next, running a hand along its flank, feeling the tremor there. Easy, you murmur again. It steadies under your touch. You position it so it stands between the wind and the rest of you, head low, body angled to take the brunt. Then you turn back. Mara has the children close, one arm around each. They're pressed into the rock, eyes wide but dry. No crying, not yet. You crouch across from them, back against the opposite wall, creating a tighter space, contained, safer. For a moment, no one speaks. The storm fills the silence, a living thing clawing at the edges of your shelter. Dust seeps in through every gap, coating skin, settling into clothes. You taste it with every breath. Mara watches you through it. Her eyes track every movement, every adjustment you make, not questioning, learning. How long? She asks finally, raising her voice just enough to carry over the noise. You tilt your head, listening, not to the wind itself, but to the pattern beneath it. The rhythm, the way it rises and falls. Could be an hour, you say, could be longer. She nods, tightens her hold on the children slightly. Eli shifts, uncomfortable in the confined space. You catch his eye. Breathe slow, you tell him, in through your nose, out through your mouth. He nods, mimicking the pattern. It steadies him. The smaller one follows without being told, copying Eli more than you. That's fine. Whatever works. The canvas snaps hard against the rope, a sharp crack that echoes in the narrow space. Mara flinches despite herself. You reach out and adjust the tension, pulling the rope tighter, angling the fabric so it sheds the wind instead of catching it. Small correction, big difference. The noise drops a fraction. "You've done this before," she says, voice lower now. Not a question this time. You nod once. Enough. She studies you for a long moment, then looks away, back to the children. "We would have died out there," she says. "It's not dramatic, just a statement of fact. You don't answer right away. You let the truth sit between you." "Maybe," you say finally. She shakes her head slightly. "No, not maybe." The wind howls again, louder, as if to underline the point. Eli looks between you, something shifting in his expression. Respect, maybe, or the beginning of it. You don't dwell on it. Respect isn't something you take. It's something that shows up when it's ready. The storm grinds on. Minutes stretch. Time loses its edges in the constant noise and motion. You keep your focus on the details, the rope, the canvas, the horse's breathing, the children's posture, Mara's hands, always scanning, always adjusting. At one point, the smaller child starts to shake. Not from fear, from cold. The temperature dropped with the wind, pulling heat from bodies faster than they can replace it. You notice it immediately. You shrug off your coat without a word and toss it across. Mara catches it, hesitates for a fraction of a second, then wraps it around both children, pulling them closer. "You'll need that," she says, raising her voice. You shake your head. "They need it more." She doesn't argue, just nods once, a flicker of something softer crossing her face before it hardens again. The storm begins to shift after a while, not stopping, just changing. The gusts lose some of their edge. The dust thins slightly, the air moving from a solid wall to something you can see through in brief, broken glimpses. You listen for it. The moment when it turns from dangerous to manageable. It comes subtle, easy to miss if you're not paying attention. You stand slowly, testing the space, feeling the wind against your body. Still strong, not lethal. You step toward the opening, loosening the rope and pulling the canvas aside just enough to look out. The world beyond is muted, colors washed out by dust and distance. But the ground is visible again. The horizon, faint but there. You turn back. "We move in 5, you say. Mara exhales, a long breath she didn't realize she was holding. Eli straightens, energy returning now that the worst is past. The smaller child peeks out from the coat, your eyes wide but curious again. You secure your gear, checking each piece with practiced efficiency. No wasted motion, no second guesses. Mara watches, then begins to mirror you, adjusting what little she has, making sure the children are ready. When the 5 minutes pass, you pull the canvas free, roll it tight, and stow it. The wind still pushes at you as you step out, but it no longer feels like a wall. Just resistance, something to lean into. You lead the horse out of the cut, guiding it back onto the ridge. The land has changed in small ways. Drifts of dust piled against rocks, tracks erased, the world reset to a cleaner, harsher version of itself. You take a breath, tasting the air, measuring what's left of the storm. Then you start walking again. This time, when Mara falls into step beside you, she doesn't need to ask what comes next. The world after the storm feels stripped, not cleaner, just exposed. The dust has settled into thin drifts that shift underfoot like loose ash, swallowing tracks and softening edges. What used to be a path is now memory. You slow, not because you're unsure, but because speed without certainty gets people lost. The horse snorts, shaking its head as if trying to rid itself of the grit that clings to everything. Eli wipes his face with the back of his sleeve, leaving a streak across his cheek. The smaller one blinks hard, adjusting to the light now that the sky has opened again. Mara walks beside you, closer than before. Not quite shoulder to shoulder, but near enough that the space between you feels intentional rather than cautious. You scan the horizon, recalibrating. Landmarks have shifted. What used to stand out is muted now. But the bones of the terrain remain, the slope of the ridge, the angle of the distant hills. You find your line again. We cut east for a while, you say. Ground's firmer there. Mara nods, trusting the call without pressing for detail. The wind drops to a low, steady push at your back. It carries the faint smell of damp earth now, buried under the dust. Rain fell somewhere nearby. Not here. Close enough to matter. You angle slightly to catch it. Eli notices the shift. Water? He asks. You nod. Maybe. His posture straightens, fatigue pushed aside by the idea of it. The smaller child leans forward again, eyes scanning the ground like they might spot it first. You let them look. It keeps them engaged, keeps them moving. The land dips again, but this time it's gentler. In the slope leading into a shallow valley where the soil darkens just enough to hint at moisture. You crouch briefly, pressing your fingers into the dirt. It holds shape for a second before crumbling. Recent, not fresh, but enough. You stand and keep moving. Not far, you say. Mara exhales quietly. Relief, held tight but real. The valley narrows into a thin corridor lined with low brush and scattered stone. The ground here is firmer, packed by water that comes and goes with the seasons. You follow the natural line of it, eyes moving constantly, reading the subtle signs most people miss. A bend in the grass, a cluster of greener leaves, then you hear it. Faint, easy to mistake for wind if you don't know better. A trickle, barely there. You raise a hand stopping the group. Everyone goes still. You tilt your head, listening. There it is again. You change direction without a word, moving toward the sound. The brush thickens slightly, branches scraping against your sleeves as you push through. Then it opens into a small hollow where water is collected in a narrow, shallow stream. Not much, but it's moving. Clean enough. Real. Eli slides off the horse before you tell him to. Drops to his knees at the edge, hands hovering over the surface like he's afraid it might disappear if he touches it too fast. Mara steps in behind him, one hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Slow, she says. He nods, cupping the water carefully and bringing it to his mouth. The smaller child follows, less controlled but no less careful, guided by Mara's steadying hand. You move to the upstream side, scanning the banks, checking for signs of contamination, tracks, waste. Anything that might turn relief into regret. You find none. Just the faint impressions of small animals that came and went before the storm. You fill the canteen, letting the water run over your hands, washing away the worst of the dust. It feels colder than it should. You take a measured drink, then cap it and set it aside. Mara watches you again, always watching. You check everything, she says. You shrug slightly, or you pay for what you miss. She nods, filing that away. Eli drinks again, then sits back on his heels, breathing easier now. The smaller child splashes a little, a flicker of something like normal slipping through the cracks of everything else. Mara lets it happen for a moment before gently pulling them back. Enough, she says. We don't waste it. You step away from the stream, giving them space, and start gathering what little dry wood you can find. It's scarce, but the storm knocked loose a few branches that haven't soaked through yet. You test each one, snapping it clean, stacking the usable pieces in a small pile. Mara notices and moves to help without being asked. She doesn't ask what you're doing. She just mirrors the process, selecting, testing, stacking. Efficient. You nod once, barely visible. Eli watches for a moment, then joins in, mimicking your movements with careful attention. The smaller child follows him, collecting smaller pieces, bringing them back with both hands. It's not much, but it adds up. When you have enough, you clear a small patch of ground down to the dirt, scraping away the top layer of dust with your boot. You arrange the wood in a tight structure, leaving space for air to move through. Mara studies the setup, eyes tracing the pattern. You expecting more rain? She asks. No, you say, but the cold will come. She glances at the sky. It's already shifting, the light softening as the sun begins its slow drop. The storm pulled the heat out of the day. Night will take what's left. You strike a spark, shielding it with your body as it catches. The flame starts small, hesitant, then takes hold, feeding on the dry core of the wood. You build it slowly, controlled, until it's steady enough to last without constant attention. The warmth spreads in a small radius, pushing back the chill. The children drift closer to it instinctively. Mara stays where she is for a moment, watching the fire like it's something she hasn't trusted in a long time. Then she steps in, settling near the edge of the heat. You sit opposite them, back straight, eyes moving between the fire and the surrounding land, always watching, always listening. The stream continues its quiet movement beside you, a steady counterpoint to the crackle of the fire. For the first time since the auction, there's a moment where nothing immediate is pressing down on you. No crowd, no storm, just space. Mara breaks it. That ranch, she says. How far? You consider the distance, the terrain, the pace you can maintain with what you have. 2 days, you say. Maybe 3. She nods. And the people there? You meet her gaze across the fire. They work, you say. Same as you. She holds your eyes for a second longer. That's not what I asked. You let the silence stretch, weighing what to give her. Then, they mind their business, mostly. She absorbs that. It's not reassurance, it's not a warning either, just information. Eli looks between you, then at the fire. What do they grow? He asks. You glance at him. Depends on the season, you say. Right now? Mostly hay, some cattle. He nods, processing. I can help, he says. I'm strong. Mara's hand tightens slightly on his shoulder. You're tired, she says. You'll help when you're ready. You watch the exchange, the way he leans into the idea of usefulness, the way she tempers it without breaking it. There's something solid there, something that survives even when everything else falls apart. He'll help, you say. Mara looks at you surprised. You hold her gaze, just not all at once. Eli straightens a little at that, a quiet pride settling in. The smaller child leans against Mara, eyes growing heavy now that the immediate needs are met. The firelight flickers across their faces, softening the edges carved by the day. The wind has settled into a low whisper, barely moving the brush around you. The sky deepens, color draining into darker shades as the sun slips lower. You reach into your pack and pull out what little food you have. Dried meat, hard bread, not much but enough to take the edge off. You pass it across without ceremony. Mara takes it, dividing it carefully between the children first, then herself. You take what's left without comment. They eat in silence, the kind that comes from focus rather than discomfort. When it's done, Mara wipes her hands on her dress, then looks at you again. See, you didn't have to do this, she says. You glance at the fire, then back at her. I know. She studies you, searching for something that explains it. When she doesn't find it, she lets the question go. For now. The light fades further, the first hints of night settling over the land. The fire becomes the center of everything, a small circle of warmth in a wide and different world. You shift slightly, adjusting your position so you can see beyond the glow, into the dark where shapes begin to lose their edges. Mara notices. You don't sleep, she says. You shake your head once, not yet. She follows your gaze into the dark, then back to the children. I can take a watch, she says. You consider that. Not her willingness, her capability. Later, you say, when we're closer. She nods, accepting the call. Eli curls up near the fire. The smaller child already half asleep against Mara's side. The day has taken what it needed from them. You sit there, steady, eyes moving, ears tuned to every shift in the night. The stream keeps its quiet rhythm. The fire holds. The land breathes around you. And for the first time since you stepped into that street, there's something like balance in the space between you all. Not safe, not yet, but held, for now. The cold settles deeper just before dawn. It always does. The kind that seeps through layers and finds the weak points, joints, scars, the spaces between breaths. You feel it first in your hands, then in your shoulders, a quiet stiffness that warns you the night is almost done. The fire has burned down to a bed of coals, faint orange pulsing under a thin layer of ash, enough to keep the edge off, not enough to hide behind. You nudge it with a stick, breaking the surface so it can breathe again. A few small flames lick upward, hesitant but alive. The sky hasn't lightened yet, but it's close. That moment before the world returns, when everything holds still. You stand slowly, joints protesting in small, familiar ways, and step out of the circle of warmth. The ground crunches under your boots, frost clinging to the thin layer of dust left by the storm. It glitters faintly in the dark, catching what little light the stars offer. You move a short distance away, scanning the perimeter again. Habit, always the same pattern. Nothing new presents itself. No tracks crossing yours in the night. No disturbed brush. The world stayed quiet. You turn back. Mara is awake. She's sitting upright now, arms wrapped loosely around herself, watching you with that same steady focus she's carried since the beginning. There's less tension in it now, not gone, just redistributed. You didn't sleep, she says, not accusing, observing. You shake your head. Not needed. She studies you for a moment, then glances at the children. Eli is still asleep, though lighter now, shifting slightly as the cold presses in. The smaller one is curled tighter against him, face buried, breath visible in faint puffs. Mara stands, moving carefully so she doesn't wake them. She steps closer to the fire, extending her hands toward the small flames. You always carry it alone? She asks. You know what she means, not the fire, the watch, the weight. You don't answer right away. You crouch, adding a small piece of wood to the coals, coaxing the flame back without letting it flare too high. Most times, you say. She nods slowly. That's not sustainable. The word sounds out of place out here. Too clean, too measured. But the meaning holds. You glance at her, a flicker of something like curiosity passing through your expression. You planning on staying long enough for it to matter? You ask. She meets your gaze without hesitation. I'm planning on staying alive. Fair answer. You nod once. The first light begins to creep along the horizon, a thin line of gray that pushes back the dark in slow increments. The shapes of the land return piece by piece, the outline of the valley, the low brush, the narrow stream cutting through it all. The world reassembles itself. Eli wakes with a sharp inhale, like he expects to be somewhere else. His eyes dart for a second, then settle when he sees the fire, the stream, you. He sits up, rubbing his face. We moving? He asks. You nod. Soon. The smaller child stirs at the sound of his voice, blinking into the dim light. Mara turns back to them, her posture shifting subtly, softer but no less controlled. Up, she says gently. We've got ground to cover. They move without complaint, slow, stiff, but willing. You watch them for a moment, gauging what the night took and what it left behind. They'll manage. You stamp out the last of the flames, scattering the coals and covering them with dirt until there's nothing left that could catch or signal. The spot looks undisturbed again, like you were never there. You pack your gear with the same efficiency as before. No wasted motion, every piece accounted for. Mara mirrors you again, adjusting what little she carries, making sure the children are ready. Eli helps the smaller one with their boots, fingers clumsy but determined. You take the lead on the horse, checking its legs, its hooves, running a hand along its flank. It's held up well. Strong, you loosen the rope, guiding it toward the stream for a final drink before you move. It drinks deep, then lifts its head, water dripping from its muzzle. You fill the canteen again, topping it off. We'll follow the water for a stretch, you say, easier ground. Mara nods. And after? We climb, you say. There's a ridge that cuts north, faster if we can make it. Eli looks up at that. Steep? You glance at him. Steep enough. He nods, accepting the challenge without complaint. The smaller child looks between you and Mara, then at the distant rise barely visible in the morning light. No words, just a quiet understanding that the day won't be easy. You set out as the sun finally breaks the horizon, casting long shadows behind you. The light is pale at first, then strengthens, painting the land in sharp contrasts. The storm left its mark, patches of darker soil, flattened grass, the occasional broken branch, but the path along the stream is solid. Your pace picks up, not fast, steady, sustainable, the kind that eats distance without burning through strength. Mara keeps up without falling back. Her steps are more deliberate now, less reactive. She's learned the rhythm. Eli walks beside the horse for a while, one hand resting lightly against its side. Eddie grounding himself in the movement. The smaller child rides, quieter this morning, conserving energy. The sun climbs, bringing a gradual warmth that pushes back the cold. It doesn't last long. The higher you move, the thinner it feels, the wind cutting through again as you leave the shelter of the valley. The ridge rises ahead, a long spine of rock and dirt that angles north just like you said. It looks closer than it is. It always does. You feel it before you see it. Not the wind, not the terrain. Something else. A shift. You slow by half a step. That's all it takes. Mara notices immediately. What is it? She asks, low. You don't answer. You scan. Then you see it. Movement far off the ridgeline behind you. Small at first, then clearer. 3 shapes, mounted, following. Not close enough to threaten yet, close enough to confirm. Eli turns, catching the direction of your gaze. Someone's coming, he says. Mara stiffens. Not panic, calculation. From the town? Maybe, you say, but you know, people don't ride this line by accident, and they don't follow without reason. You stop fully now. Turn. Let them see you've seen them. The riders slow too. That tells you everything. They're tracking us, Mara says. You nod. Eli's voice tightens. What do we do? You look at the land again. The ridge narrows ahead, then breaks into jagged cuts, rock formations that could hide you or trap you. Keep moving, you say. But we don't run. Why not? Eli asks. Because running makes us predictable, you say. Mara studies your face. And what do we make them think? You look back at the riders, then we're not worth the trouble. You turn forward and start walking again. This time, the rhythm changes. Sharper. More deliberate. The ridge tightens into broken stone an hour later. Jagged outcrops rise on either side, forming natural corridors that twist and narrow. Visibility drops. Sound carries differently here, echoing, bouncing. You guide them into it without hesitation. Mara falls in behind you. Eli stays close to the horse. The smaller child grips tighter. You stop at a bend where the rock walls narrow into a funnel, not a trap, a decision point. You turn to them. Listen carefully, you say. If something happens, you don't freeze. You move where I tell you. Mara nods. No argument. Eli swallows, then nods too. You step out into the open space just as the riders enter the far end of the corridor. They slow when they see you waiting. 3 men, dust-covered, armed, not law, not random. One of them smiles like this is already finished. You paid good money back there, he calls. Be ashamed to lose your investment. You don't respond. You just stand there, still, centered. Mara shifts behind you, placing the children closer to the rock wall. Subtle, smart. The lead rider nudges his horse forward. We'll make it easy, he says. You walk away. We take them. Silence, wind threading through stone. You tilt your head slightly. No, you say. The word lands flat, final. The smile fades. Then we do it the hard way. He reaches for his gun. You move first, fast, precise. The shot cracks through the corridor, echoing hard off the stone. His hand jerks back before the weapon clears leather. Chaos follows. The other 2 scramble, horses rearing in the tight space. You step sideways, using the rock as partial cover, firing again. Controlled, measured, not panic. 1 rider drops. The 3rd tries to turn, to escape the funnel he didn't read properly. Too late. The horse stumbles on loose stone. You close the distance, ending it before it becomes something worse. The echoes fade slowly, leaving the space ringing and empty. Dust drifts through the air, catching the light. You stand there a second, breathing steady, listening for anything you missed. There's nothing. You lower the gun, turn. Mara is already moving, checking the children. Eli is shaken but standing. The smaller one clings tight but unharmed. Mara looks at you, not fear, not shock, something else, understanding. You nod once. We keep moving, you say. No one argues. You don't look back as you lead them out of the corridor. The land opens again ahead of you, wide, unforgiving, but closer now. The ranch isn't just an idea anymore. It's a destination you can reach. And this time, nothing follows. The ridge keeps what's left behind. You push north again. The rhythm is different now, tighter, sharper. Mara walks beside you. Eli keeps pace. The smaller one watches everything. Hours pass. The ridge slopes down as the light shifts toward evening. You see it first. A structure, low, wide, built to last. Mara follows your gaze. That's it? That's it. Eli squints. Doesn't look like much. It's enough. As you descend, details sharpen. Fence, corral, a solid house of timber and stone, built to endure. But something's wrong. Too still, no movement, no smoke. You slow, Mara notices. What is it? Stay close. You approach carefully, keeping angles wide. The yard is empty. The house door hangs slightly open, not forced, just open. You stop, listening, nothing. You motion them to hold and move forward alone, each step deliberate. You reach the door, push it open, it creaks. Inside, the air is still. Cooler. A chair sits out of place, a cup on the table, half full, long cold. Signs of interruption, not abandonment. You clear the rooms one by one. No one inside, no struggle, but something's off. Recent. You step back outside. Mara reads your face. What is it? They're gone, not by choice. Eli frowns. Who? You don't answer yet. You're looking at the ground. Tracks. Faint, but there. More than a few. Organized. Mara follows your gaze. Same men? You shake your head. Different. Silence settles. Mara, steps closer. Then what now? You look at the house, the land, then at her, at Eli, at the smaller one holding his sleeve. Now we find out who thinks they can take this and keep it. Eli's voice is steady. And if they're still close, you meet his eyes. Then they learn they picked the wrong place. Mara studies you, then nods. Decision made. Tell us what to do. You turn back to the land, already mapping it. The wind shifts, carrying something new. Smoke, faint, distant, real. You narrow your eyes toward the thin line on the horizon. That's your answer. You start walking. They follow without question. The line holds. This time, it's not just about getting through. It's about taking something back. You move toward the smoke without slowing, the line of it thin against the fading sky. Not a wildfire, too controlled. Someone's burning something on purpose. The ground dips as you leave the ridge, dry grass whispering under your boots. The air sharpens, ash, old wood, something heavier beneath it. Mara keeps pace beside you, steady, eyes fixed ahead. Eli walks close to the horse, hand on the saddle. The smaller one stays quiet, watching everything. The light drops fast, shadows stretching thin. You angle low, using the land to break your outline. No need to be seen before you understand what you're walking into. The smell strengthens. Oil now, maybe leather. Worked, not wild. You slow as a half-collapsed outbuilding comes into view. Smoke curls from behind it. You raise a hand. Stop. They halt instantly. Good. You listen. Voices low, casual, not worried. Whoever they are, they don't expect company. You motion Mara to take the children behind a shallow cut in the ground. She guides them down without a word. Eli looks up. We stay? You stay, no matter what you hear. He nods. Mara looks at you. How many? More than 3. Less than 10. She exhales once. You going alone? You shake your head. You come with me. Eli stiffens. I can help. You already are. He doesn't like it, but he understands. You and Mara move low, circling the structure. The voices sharpen, laughter, metal scraping, something heavy being shifted. You edge to the corner and look. 5 men, spread loose, 2 near a fire barrel, 1 cleaning a blade, 1 moving between crates, yours. The 5th sits apart, watching, thinking. You mark him first. Mara tracks the same lines. They strip the place, she whispers, and they're not done. She studies the spacing. Quiet? As quiet as it lets us. She nods. No hesitation. You move first, closing on the edge man. Mara mirrors from the opposite side. The first one never sees you. Down without a sound. She takes hers the same way. Clean. 2 gone. 3 left. The man by the barrel turns, sensing something off. He steps closer to the fire. You step out and close the gap. He goes down harder. Not loud, but enough. The man with the blade looks up fast, trained. The watcher stands, calm. We've got company. Mara fires first. The shot cracks. The blade man drops. The watcher moves low, straight toward you. Smart. You meet him halfway. No distance, no wasted motion. He's strong, balanced. He presses forward, testing your footing. You give a step, let him think he's gaining. Then shift. Break his line. His strike misses. Yours doesn't. He staggers, recovers quick. Good. The last man bolts, running for the ridge. Mara tracks him. First shot misses, second doesn't. He drops. Silence settles again, heavier this time. You and the watcher face each other, breathing controlled. He wipes blood from his lip. You the owner? Just the one standing here? A faint, almost smile. Then you're the problem. You came a long way to make one. He nods. Place like this don't stay empty. Someone takes it. You picked the wrong version. His eyes flick to Mara, then back. He adjusts. Too late. You move. This time it ends fast. Final. He goes still. The world exhales. Mara lowers her gun, scanning. You do the same. Count bodies, count silence. It holds. You step back, letting the tension drain. Mara walks over. That all of them? You check once more. That's all. She looks at the crates, the burned barrel. They were getting ready to move. Yeah. We caught them first. Eli appears at the rise, the smaller one close behind. He hesitates, then walks in. It's done? It's done. His shoulders drop, something finally letting go. The smaller one grips Mara's hand. Mara looks at you. Different now. Settled. What happens now? You glance toward the ranch, then back at what's left behind. Now we go back. Put it in order. Eli nods. We can help. You look at him? I know. You take what's useful, leave the rest. The fire burns low as you walk away, smoke thinning behind you. The path feels shorter now. Not because it is, because the weight is shifted. The ranch comes into view. Same as before. Still. Waiting. But it doesn't feel empty anymore. You step into the yard as someone returning, not passing through. Mara moves beside you, steps matching yours. Eli heads for the corral, already seeing what needs fixing. The smaller one stays close but steady. You stop at the doorway, same chair, same cup, but the air's different, more settled. You step inside. This time it feels like a place. Mara follows, resting her hand on the table. We can make this work, not a question. You nod. Yeah. Outside, Eli calls about the fence, practical, immediate, alive. You glance back at Mara, water first, then shelter. She nods. One thing at a time. You step out into the fading light. The land stretches quiet, but no longer uncertain. The wind carries earth now, not ash. You pick up a tool, test its weight, hand one to Eli. He takes it firm. Mara joins you, already moving to the next task. The smaller one gathers what they can carry, adding to the work. No one talks about before. It's there. It doesn't need words. The light fades to deep blue. A lamp flickers inside, warm against the dark. You pause just long enough to take it in. Then you get back to work.